What up? What up? Welcome in, everybody. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. What up? What up? What up? Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos, broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. So earlier today, I was working on my little soliloquy. I was making a video and kind of jotted down some of my notes. But instead of making it into a video, I decided to go live and get some feedback from the Sleuth crew. What's up, Jill? Miranda? So once again, we will dive into Abby and Libby's case. Still a lot of questions. We've seen these media tours from the defense team, from the prosecution, and the investigative side. Nobody can answer the Anthony Shots question. I mean, it's just floating out there like it's in purgatory or something, in the void. Ruckus. I've been doing really good. Back on my regiment. What's up, Ziggy? This account, good to see you. Miranda says Ruckus need a Ruckus Rocks live stream. Investigators see strong possibility the girls were planning to meet somebody, maybe even someone connected to Anthony Shots. Well, we know they spent a lot of resources and a lot of time looking into that angle. Pretty sure that's why the FBI was involved. Pretty sure that's why it took them forever to arrest Keegan Kline. You know, they were investigating. They were hoping to find a connection. At least from Keegan Kline and who they thought was the killer. I think they were pretty sure that Keegan Kline was connected to the crime. If that makes sense. Julia Burns.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, I agree, Sleuth. I don't think we'll ever hear a peep about anything from Richard Allen. He'll cowardly take his sick details and motives to his grave. Yeah, I would have argued with you about that, you know, but now we have verification that he was offered a plea bargain and He knows. He knows he was going to get convicted, and he did the math. If I confess to this, I lose the only thing that matters to me, which is my connection to my wife. There's no way I can spend the rest of my life in prison alone. Like, I need to at least, have her as my connection to the outside world. Because through her, he'll get to hear about grandbabies, what's going on with his daughter. She can report in, even if it's just a letter once a month. If he loses that, that's it. So, yep, I agree. Welcome in, Brenda Starr. If there is no connection, then it's the craziest coincidence I've ever heard of. And one thing I've learned covering true crime, there are coincidences. That's one of the reason innocent people end up in prison. Very strange coincidences. They do exist. Ruckus. What is KK sentencing that we don't know about? According to Kelsey, the girls first asked to go to the mall, but were told no. A mall is a great place for creeps like KK. Good point. Yep, and 3 years before that. Motion detected in the front yard. Yep. Nexus, right, Julia? They need a nexus. Rescue all the dogs. They need to prove it. And it appears if they are connected, the Kleins or Keegan, they used Google Maps as their alibi. Like, there's nobody that was there to come forward and give a statement like, hey, I was with these guys. They simply showed them, hey, here's my phone, and look, Google tracked me all day, and this is where I was. So I think that it would be easy to establish an alibi by using a cell phone, right? And also, he mentioned something about 12 noon. Like, I went to my grandparents around 12 noon. That would have been around the same time Richard Allen was going to Delphi. Good to see you, Ziggy. Why did KK get such a harsh sentence, or was it harsh for the first time offender? I don't know. I mean, he definitely deserved what he got. Some people have gotten worse. Some people have been sentenced to life. Some people have gotten off a lot with a lot less time. But I just feel the fact that he got so much time, the investigation, the team over here looking into the Delphi murders, they may say to themselves like, "Hey, look, if we think he's involved, he's already in prison, pretty much for the rest of his life." And they may just close the books. And there's missing phones on both sides. Keegan Klein has a missing phone from that day. Richard Allen has a missing phone from that day. What's up, Brett Decker? He should have pled out. He's an idiot. Yeah, I thought he would. I mean, how do you go through a trial without an alibi? And how does your defense team allow that? Like, wouldn't they advise you, like, dude, you need to take a plea unless at some point we have to talk about your alibi? What's up, Christine? Rescue all the dogs. Miranda Lee, this account. Everybody that I missed. Sorry about chat. Sorry about that. CJK, what's up? Cindy Lean, bad actors. Yeah, it took me a few tries to find kind of like a Keegan Kline, Richard Allen situation. The Anna says, sounds to me per Holman that law enforcement is stymied because KK's phone was in use all day in Peru. Exactly. Um, they were unable to break the alibi. That's why I said this is a failed connection. Not once did they say, "Hey, we tracked this down, and we just don't believe that they're connected." They say we couldn't find a connection. Everything is through the eyes of what can we present in a courtroom. Hey, Cindy Lean, exactly. Sleuth missing or wiped clean phones. Phone picked up in cab. I think that was a lie. I think that might have been a lie. And everything that the investigators have on Keegan Kline and how it relates to the Delphi case, they didn't have to include that in the discovery. Like, we don't have access to any of that information. They could have gone down all kinds of rabbit holes and we would never know about it because it wasn't part of their case against Richard Allen. They weren't planning on presenting any of that. Hey, what's up, Anthony? Says he had an alibi. He was sleeping on the couch when his wife came home after the trails. And where does that information come from? I hear people repeating that over and over and over. That was never said in the courtroom. I don't think he is extremely strategic. Could be when he settles in and appeals over, he will talk maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. Because if he talks, that's it for him. Right now, he's still, for the people that matter to him the most, his wife, there's still that facade. There's still that chance that he might actually be innocent, especially when his defense team, they're going around on a media tour saying how much they believe he's innocent, which they're going to do because it would be professional suicide not to. It's bad for business. I wouldn't expect any real honesty anyway from that group. That's true. The River Search and Allen's arrest are very close. I find that interesting. So here, let me pull up my notes. I'm just going to read right through what I have here written down. We can talk about it. I have some supporting content. Let me see. What did I pull? Okay, looks like Richard Allen's confessions over the years. Recent mention of Keegan Kline's confession during some of the filings just before the trial started. Some pieces from his transcript relating to the Country Club Road, his alibi, things like that. But here, we'll go to my notes first. Kind of sums it up. Then we'll go from there. Yeah, we don't know. She didn't testify. She didn't talk about that at all. Like, he literally, throughout the trial, he has no alibi. There's no timeline. Even Keegan Kline in his interview, he has somewhat of a timeline. Like, he makes an attempt. He's like, well, I was probably at my grandparents'. That's what I normally did on those days. I probably did this, this, and that. I think I was with my dad. I'm pretty sure we went to these places. With Richard Allen, it was none of that. The only information we have about his timeline is a little bits and pieces from his interview with Holman, the notes from Doolin, and his confession to Dr. Walla. And what I found interesting is his confession, the beginning part of it, we verified through people who were close to his case. So it's a fact that he was definitely in Peru. Julia says KK is always a threat to society, largest CP ring in Indiana. They don't want this guy roaming the streets, cyber lurking in daddy's basement anytime. I agree. We aren't here to debate whether Richard Allen is guilty or not. We are here to discuss whether Keegan Klein or the Kleins are involved in the deaths of Abby and Libby. Sees through says, I would love to see the geofence data. What are you expecting to find on that data that we don't already know? Like, what would you think? Just throw out a few guesses. Like, what are you expecting to see on that geofence data that we don't already know? The only reason they want to show you that is because it doesn't have Richard Allen's cell phone anywhere. But it also, we found out from Holman that he had activity on his phone shortly before the crime and then shortly after. That could only mean one thing, right? Either he left it at home, he shut it off, pulled the battery out, whatever. He took precautions and was most likely on a burner phone. What's up, wife Lola? Says Tony paid Keegan around $20K to go and stay in Vegas. Why would TK do that? It's been proven he paid KK, and there's a reason. Yep, that's true. We're going to read it right now. Goat Dog, welcome in. Remember how Peru law enforcement didn't find KK's real cell phone until after he deleted it? Yeah, there was mention about a microwave. Either he placed it on top of the microwave or he hid it inside the microwave, or after his interview, he tried to destroy it in the microwave. I'm still not clear on exactly what happened. But either way, they were successfully able to pull that data. And what they found was from February 10th to February 15th on his own personal cell phone. Now, remember, he didn't delete anything else from any of the other phones. But on his own personal iPhone, he deleted everything on there from February 10th to February 15th. And another thing that correlates with the 10th is right around that time. Well, actually, it was more around the time that Libby was getting harassed by a gentleman. Well, anyway, I have this all in my notes. So here, let me go. Let me read this to you guys. Okay, on February 3rd, 2017, at just 10 days before Libby was murdered, she spent the night at a friend's house. That night, Libby's friend was catfished by a 19-year-old family friend named Keegan Klein, who was using a fake profile under the name Anthony Schatz to communicate with her. During their conversation, Keegan was introduced to Libby. The girls at the sleepover took photos of their gathering and sent them to Keegan, which provided him with both Libby's name and her photograph. Around this time, Libby reached out to her friend and ex-boyfriend, Max, and told him that she was being harassed online by a 19-year-old guy. Before Max could formulate a plan to help, Libby informed him that she had resolved the issue on her own. Additionally, Libby went to her Aunt Tara for assistance in resetting her iPhone 6 during the same period. Why would Libby agree to meet with somebody who is harassing her? That part didn't make sense to me. So this tells me that she didn't know that Anthony Schatz, if she was meeting Anthony Schatz at the bridge, that means that she didn't know that Keegan Kline and Anthony Schatz were the same person. All right, let me continue on. I suspect that Kagan might have been using another profile or possibly his personal one to communicate with Libby after being referred to her by the trusted account Anthony Schatz. This could have helped Anthony Schatz maintain a positive relationship with Libby, perhaps even leading to an apology from him for initiating the connection between them. The girl stayed up late the night before the murders and woke up around 10 a.m. They seemed eager to get to the trails that day. A group of Abby and Libby's friends had already been on the trails from 12 p.m. to about 1:40 p.m. So the girls were looking forward to meeting up with them. So we'll take a quick pause there. Did you guys hear that? 12 p.m. to about 1:40 p.m. So the girls that are mentioned in the probable cause affidavit were there from 12 to 1:40 p.m. So that means that they would have, if Richard Allen was really there from 12 to 1:40 p.m., they would have been running into each other multiple times. Right? But instead, as they're leaving the trails at 1:30, that's when they run into a guy entering the park. So, and they never talked about seeing Richard Allen. They never said, oh, well, we saw another short guy in a blue jacket and blue jeans, you know? So we think that that's Richard Allen. And then we saw the guy that was in Libby's photo. That's what they would have said if Richard Allen was being honest in his interview with Holman about being there from 12 to 1:30. They would have seen him. Those same girls would have been a key. I believe they may have been hoping to connect with Anthony Schatz as well. After Abby and Libby were murdered, investigators found that Libby had been communicating with a catfish profile under the username Anthony Schatz. This profile also interacted with family members during the search for the missing teens. In one response, the account stated, I was supposed to meet that girl there that day, but she never showed up. 10 days after the girls were discovered dead in the woods, investigators executed a search warrant at the home of Keegan and his father Tony in Peru. They analyzed all of Kagan's electronic devices and discovered a trove of disturbing content. Keegan was a sophisticated sextortionist with a catalog of abuse he had built up over 3 years prior to the murders. At 8 a.m., just 6 hours before the murders, Keegan logged 2 burner phones into the Anthony Schatz profile. This action could provide quick access to the accounts or the account, keeping everyone involved in the loop of a possible murder plot. On the morning of February 13th, 2017, Teresa Liebert, a resident of Delphi living on a secluded country road with only a few neighbors, noticed a man she had never seen before standing near a mailbox around 9 a.m. Liebert's home is located near a gate at the end of a private drive that leads to property at the southern end of the Monon High Bridge. This drive passes beneath the Monon High Bridge and ends near the Weber property, just across the water from where the bodies of the girls were found. Although she did not get a clear look at the man, he soon disappeared from view. Liebert reported this sighting to the police. Keegan Kline was living in Peru, Indiana at the time of the murders. He would have been at his father's home at 8 a.m. while logging 2 burner phones into the Anthony Schatz profile. The drive from Peru to Delphi takes approximately 45 minutes. The timeline fits when considering the time between Keegan logging the Anthony Schatz profile into 2 burner phones at 8 a.m. and a witness spotting a strange man near the crime scene at 9 a.m. We learned during the trial that Richard Allen was in Peru, Indiana, on the morning of the murders. His mother and sister invited him to lunch, but he had other plans. Is Richard Allen connected to Keegan Klein? Have investigators failed to establish this connection? Could that explain why Keegan wasn't arrested until 2019 for his sextortion crimes? Now that we know Richard Allen was indeed spending time in Peru before the murders and was there on the morning of the incident, have we overlooked a possible link between Keegan and Richard Allen? Did Richard Allen target Abby and Libby using the Anthony Shots account? Shortly before Richard Allen's trial, his defense team filed documents confirming a rumor that Keegan Klein had actually confessed to police about his involvement in the murders. Keegan Klein was taken into ISP custody and taken to the Delphi crime scene to explain his involvement in detail. Keegan stated him and his father went to Delphi that day specifically to target Libby. He said him and his father parked at the cemetery and he waited while his father went into the woods. Sometime later, Keegan said his father came out of the woods muddy and bloody and made the comment, "We just had fun." My only question is, who is we? All right, guys. That was the soliloquy. Let me go ahead and shotgun these notes here. What's going on, Sparky? If someone was selling snuff films on the dark web, they probably made a killing. Well, remember, there were some crime scene photos that were leaked early on. Those could have actually been screenshots from the dark web. Hey, Jessica, what's up? All right. So, what'd you guys think about that information? What's up, Vala? Yep, I agree with that. You take common sense. This is what I narrowed it down to. It's just simply gaslighting common sense. You present something that's common sense and then you smother it, with some gaslighting. Let's go to Ruckus. I would have bet more people were involved until the state presented their case. I've said so many times. Yeah, Richard Allen could have done this 100% by himself. Anthony, hey, Sleuth. If Richard Allen never confessed, do you think he would be creepily dancing around a pool table on meth today? Because I do. No, I think he still would, even without those confessions. You can't sit in a courtroom being accused of murdering two people and not say anything, or have not one person stand up for you saying, yeah, he woke up that morning, he looked fine. You're telling me you can't have one person say that about you? That you look like you were in good health that day? That's crazy to me. Yep, there you go, Caesar. He would have been at the bridge. He would have been at Freedom Bridge at the same time as those three witnesses. They were there like around 12:40, like around 12:30 to 1, between 12:30 and 1. That's a good question. And why the hell did it take so long to arrest Kagan? To me, the only logical answer is because they were investigating him. They were hoping that he would mess up. They were probably using the FBI. Remember, there's a lot going on with Keegan Klein that relates to the Delphi case that wasn't mentioned during trial. That wasn't a transcript, Julia. That was just my notes. I wrote that this morning. Ruckus says Rick Allen did this and he did it alone. The appellate. I don't know if he did it alone. Remember, Richard Allen hasn't come forward. He hasn't said anything other than what he confessed while being locked up to Dr. Walla, and he didn't mention anybody else. You think if he was going to give you the full timeline, he would have been like, "Oh, and then my buddy was waiting on the other side of the creek," or this and that. He never mentioned anything like that. But then again, he might have just been giving his confession, right? Assuming if there were any cohorts, at some point they would have gotten together and talked about what they would do if this ever happened, right? If one of them got arrested. This account, Libby's phone would show the communication, though. I'm really open to it. That's just not true. We don't know how they were communicating. We don't even know if Abby had a phone that she was using. Maybe that was taken from the crime scene. The thing is, just because law enforcement hasn't found something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Thank you, Sparky. Anthony says, "Hey, Sleuth, if Richard Allen..." Oh, yeah, we already read that, huh? Need to go down here somewhere. KK and TK are perverts, and the story, no involvement in this case. I don't know if you can say that for sure. I mean, their only alibi is Google Maps tracking them. That's it. That's not really an alibi. That's just an uphill battle for investigators trying to get any kind of a search warrant or anything, or proceeding against them specifically, right? Like everything that we have find goes against what we were hoping to find. So I guess that's that. Got to follow the evidence. The evidence is we have their Google, we have all their movements that are being tracked through Google Maps. And it does not have them in Delphi at the time of the murders. End of story. Now, if you could break that, imagine how easy it would be to get away with murder if you just used your Google Maps. You know, your grandmother tells you, "Oh, I'm going grocery shopping later today." Turn the volume all the way down, the battery all the way up, maybe even hook it to another, like a secondary battery so that it doesn't die. Put it in a small bag, have it on, have something playing like a movie or porn or whatever. And then you're just tracked wherever that vehicle goes while you're out over here on your burner phone doing God knows what. What's up, Boston Christian? Yeah, sorry, wife Lilith. We're just going with a quick flow here. Try to get through this chat here. Yeah, I mean, you never know. It could be something could be on the dark web relating to the Delphi case from the killer or killers. Try to free Brian Koberger? Why would they do that? Let's see. This was an interesting piece of information put on Reddit. Some of it kind of goes with what I was saying. So this is by Old Heart 7780 on Delphi trial. Posted 5 months ago. It says, listened to the Murder Sheet's latest podcast, the third day of last week's testimony. Go to the 1 hour, 10 minute, 25-second mark and listen to Anya's description of what Keegan Klein said about that day 2 kids were slaughtered in Delphi. And in quotations, it says, they had a good time. And then again, they is not Keegan Klein talking about both he and his dad having a good time. They had a good time. That's what Keegan Klein, who stated he waited in a vehicle for 2 hours at the back of the cemetery, said his dad told him when he got back to their vehicle that was parked at the back of the old Delphi cemetery, covered in blood. So why does the word they matter? It matters because Keegan Klein told Detective Veto and CC prosecutor Nick McClelland at that August 18th, 2022 meeting at Grissom Air Force Base that his dad said they had a good time before any of us knew anything whatsoever about Richard Allen. And they implies there was someone else back there at the murder scene. They had a good time. That's what Keegan Klein told law enforcement. That's some incredibly inflammatory, detailed description of what Keegan Klein told law enforcement. And let's keep in mind, Keegan Klein implicated himself in the murders of Libby and Abby on August 18th, 2022. First question Vito and McClelland are going to ask Keegan Klein, who is they? Who do you think is they? I'm a fairly educated man. I'm going to guess it's none other than Richard Allen. Why do I guess it's Richard Allen? The fire pits. That's why. It's all in the fire pits. I can't stress the importance of looking where those Indiana State Police investigators were looking just prior to showing up at Richard Allen's house on October 13th, 2022. They were in Keegan Klein's grandmother's backyard fire pit, garbage pit, or whatever you want to call it, where people burn stuff in their backyard. So where do the Allens' neighbors see those ISP investigators looking? That fire pit in the middle of the backyard. And not just that fire pit, they are intensely focused on that pile of ashes found hidden behind his backyard shed. Who told law enforcement to look at those 2 backyard fire pits? Who knew they burned the bloody evidence behind those 2 homes, some 40 miles apart? Who knew they were not one but 2 killers that day in Delphi? But right now, he's safely locked away for having pled guilty to 25 counts of CSAM and obstructing justice by having deleted those Snapchat messages to Libby German. That day, both she and Abby were never seen alive again. Of course, I'm not speculating on those other actors that Carroll County prosecutor told Judge Gold about shortly after Richard Allen's arrest. Doug Carter told us all it's complex and it has tentacles. Speculation is a natural thing people do when they don't have a full story on what happened that day in the heartland of America. We shall see. So once again, I found that on Reddit by old_heart_7780 titled, They Had a Good Time on the Delphi Trial page. Julie says, but of course, possible something was missed. I mean, just look how long it took for Richard Allen's tip to be revealed. I wonder who wrote cleared on the tip per McClelland. Yeah. I mean, they're very curious too. They're like, we wish we had somebody to blame. Sounds to me like the defense was amazed and entranced with the possibility of the Odinist saga. I think they thought they could sell it. And then they created a strategy, and with the leak and the multiple leaks, I should say. It just was unsuccessful. But what do you do when you have when you have a guilty client that doesn't have an alibi? Like, what the hell? Innocent are the same people who are claimed. Oh, okay. Got you now, Vala. Thank you for clarifying. I was like, what? But I was wrong when I thought they had tried to make a run for it across the creek. Oh, I took a lot of time on that, Julia. I was like, if I'm going to make videos, I think it has a lot to do with the writing. Yeah, it took me a couple of hours this morning. Actually, I wrote it down on a piece of paper first, front and back, and then I just started work. Then I went to my computer and started rewriting it. And then once I was done with that, I went through and started changing everything. I was proud of it. Why didn't they fall for speedy trial if they believed it? Of course not. They asked for a speedy trial, Here's your speedy trial. Oh, we're not ready. We were just kidding. I was just joking. I was seeing if you were ready. Trying to keep you on your toes. I was fooling y'all. What's up, Dakota? Why did you change your mind on the Kleins? Bad actor says, I think Kagan definitely did the catfishing and shared it, maybe even anonymously. I don't know. Something about him logging into the Anthony Shots account at 8 a.m. that morning, into two separate devices. And then through his first interview, they were very curious about a specific phone. So they're missing a phone. Let me see if I have those readily available. See if I can be more specific. Okay, here we go. So during his initial interview, after they served a search warrant, they asked Kagan, so Anthony Shots, so when they were asking you, did you send her images? You said no because you didn't, but Anthony Shots did. Kagan says no because I don't remember sending them anything. So maybe he didn't send that. Maybe somebody else sent that. He's like, not that I wouldn't, but I just don't remember doing that. Another question. Okay, well, I'm telling you, here's 3 off the bat. Here's another one. Here's a couple more, actually. And then here's one sent specifically to her. And it says here, is it bad that I'm super into you? Kagan says, like I would say to every one of the girls. Like, yeah. So it's weird that he would deny certain things and then agree with others. I mean, it was the same thing with every one of those girls. They ask him, but when you're telling me that you never sent her or Anthony Shots never sent her, Kagan interrupts, because I don't remember ever sending her anything. I don't remember ever even talking to her. I remember talking to her friend. You think you're going to catch me in a lie. I'm not really lying to you at all. I don't remember it. They say, it's not. I've caught you in a lie. You haven't. It is a lie. You haven't, though. You said I've never sent her anything. And you asked me, do I remember that I send? No, I don't remember that. Well, I'm telling you. So I'm saying I'm not lying. I'm not going to argue with you about these little itty bitty word sentences. Okay, just like again, it's a fact that you're communicating to her multiple days at a time, just like other girls that you were talking to, including up to the day that she went missing right before. And what I want to know is you would communicate with her on what? So right here, they're very curious about what phone was. They don't know. They know that through the Anthony Shots account, they see the communication. They know through Libby's phone, they see the communication, but they can't find the phone. So they ask him, and what I want to know is you would communicate with her on what? The iPhone 5? That's your primary device, right? He says, yeah, that's a fact. Okay, what other, now listen carefully. Okay, what other devices would you communicate with her on? So somebody's talking to Libby and they don't know the source. They don't know where it's coming from. They don't know what device it was on. There's pieces that are missing here. He says, I don't know. I don't know. I have no clue of even talking to. And they say, what other devices would you communicate with anybody else on at the time? And then it continues on. Okay, well, on February 13th, this would have been logged in a little bit earlier, right? They're looking for the phone that was logged in at 8 a.m. earlier. So that would have been at 8 o'clock in the morning at your house, okay, where you and your dad lived. Two separate devices. See the numbers here, how they're the same? Log in, log out, log in, log out. One device, log in, log out, all within minutes of each other to the same Anthony Shot Snapchat account. What? And they ask him at the very end of that, what two devices were these? These. This is a fact. So they don't know. They're looking for the two phones. They're both missing. Richard Allen's phone is missing. Remember, he said he was looking at a stock tracker, stock ticker. Where is that phone? Let's see what else I got here. Here, Veto on the KK confession. This was testified to in Richard Allen's trial. So we'll catch up on the chat and we'll talk about that. Yep, I think there's many creeps everywhere, Vala. So be careful. They're much closer than you think. Makes you really appreciate when law enforcement does connect all the dots. Hell yeah, you got to be grateful. We have a scrub report. Thank you, Sparky. 112 in chat. Only 41 have hit the like button or the thumbs up. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button. Go share the video too. Don't be a scrub. Was KK in Vegas after the homicides? I think he was. I wonder if law enforcement was watching him. I was always amazed that he bragged about transporting large marijuana deals, code for human trafficking. What's up, Roy? If he could have blamed someone else, he would have. Scumbag. I don't know, because if he blames Keegan Klein, I just don't see how that helps him. By him bringing down this other person, that's only adding more evidence against him. He's now become a witness against himself. And it would have to come with a confession, a full confession. Pedos never get 50 years for computer picks. KK was definitely involved. They can't 100% prove it, so they justice this way. No, that's illegal to do that. But I've covered plenty of cases, Anthony, where some have gotten 100 years. Dakota Ruckus, they're keeping the top line open, and the investigation isn't closed, according to McClellan. It's about Richard Allen's behavior with some of his colleagues. Yep, apparently he liked to jump scare. He made a few inappropriate comments while, I guess, out to lunch with some of the female coworkers. What's going on, Jessica? Well, it does not have their phones in Delphi. Oh, we got a super chat. Julia, thanks. To my favorite shout out to my favorite YouTube, my favorite true crime YouTuber. Oh, and Sleuth too. He's I guess. Your hard work does not go unnoticed. Please keep it up. I have mad respect for you. Thank you, Julia. I think that deserves a
Excellent.
excellent. Appreciate that. Okay, let me zip on down to the bottom. If I skip you, I apologize. All right, let's continue on. Do you think law enforcement was tipped off about the fire pit, etc.? Hey, well, I have something to support that. Let's see. Murder sheet talking about Keegan Klein's grandparents' fire pit search. Okay. About the same time the original hearing was scheduled, and this was Keegan Klein when one of his hearings was being scheduled, we saw some pretty intense searches going on. A search of the Wabash River and the search of the fire pit at the home of Keegan Klein's grandparents, said Kevin Greenlee, an attorney and host of the podcast The Murder Sheet, which has delved into the Delphi murders. So, the same time that they were taking Keegan Klein out of jail and into ISP custody over to Grissom Air Force Base, back over to Delphi, into right next to the crime scene. They're taking him on this little field trip. They're also starting to search the Wabash River. Now we know why, because Keegan Klein mentioned a phone and a blade, phone and a blade, and they searched all through the river near the crime scene, so they know it's not there. So I have a feeling that they just took it upon themselves, like, hey, maybe it's here. This makes sense. We'll search here near his home. Maybe that's where he threw it. So now we're talking I don't know, like less than a month before Richard Allen is arrested. You have Keegan Klein confessing to his participation in the Delphi murders. You have them searching the Wabash River. And as soon as they're done with that, they arrest Richard Allen. Coincidence? That I just don't know. I just don't know. Whatever information they have about any of that is definitely not public information at this point. Super chat, super sticker. Thank you, Ziggy. Appreciate you. Yeah, that's a good one, Anna. Another lead could be to find whoever posted the filth on Kathy Allen's deceased brother's social media. And that's the thing. Like, you don't even know if investigators have even gotten their hands on that information. Like, do they even know about that? Did Nick even think about that? Is he aware of that information? Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that, Anna. Could be just one fabricated lie. Hey, Red Sauce, what's up? How you doing? There are so many sexual predators out there. It wouldn't surprise me that several were targeting Libby at once. Yes, and there were multiple that were communicating with her that were discovered through in people's investigations. Oh, it's happening right now. People are being targeted from multiple places, multiple sources. They're very active. And that's what scares me about it. They get better. Every time they target somebody, they learn what they should do next time. Like, okay, next time maybe I'll say, I'll change my voice, or maybe next time I'll add this to my profile, or these are the things that are working that I've been finding success with. So they're evolving and getting better at it. Keegan Kline was doing this for 3 years before the murders. That also taught him about, evidence and ways of covering his tracks. So he would definitely be aware of something like, hey, coming up with an idea to use Google as an alibi. So maybe that's what they did with their phones. Maybe they did go to grandma and grandpa's, dropped their phones off, and went to Delphi. I don't know if he was denied bail, but I think it was up there pretty good. Hey, what's up, Joe? Julie says Libby was very exposed on social media. Not shaming her, she was a kid, but her profiles were out there, and she communicated with strangers, commenting on her IG photos, for example. Well, yeah, and plus she was living with her grandparents. What do they really know about social media? And also, grandparents are going to be a little bit more lenient. They know what you're going through, right? Going through a lot of, you're struggling right now. We're here to make, be a little bit of a cushion for that. That's kind of why I've created this channel, is kind of to help educate about that. The things that I've learned covering true crime are very startling. They've made me more protective of my family. And really, in most cases, predators are around us. They're your neighbors, they're potentially your child's coach, teachers, even maybe people that are related to you. People like that, teachers and shit like that. You really can't trust anybody. You got to constantly be on your guard. And most people, they just don't live life like that. And I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back to that. I never would have been yanked out of the matrix. Take the blue pill. People Magazine Investigates did a great episode on Delphi. When was this? I like their series. Pretty good reporting. I don't know. On paper, I mean, it's hard to prove. I don't have anything. I can't really say anything bad about Tony Klein. Everything I've heard about him is rumors. I don't have anything solid I could wave around and be like, "Hey, look, scumbag." And I wouldn't put it past Kagan throwing his father under the bus. Or kind of seeing the angle, like I could blame this on my dad. Everything, against me, I can explain away. Like it was my dad. Shit, maybe. Is that what it's called? Helicopter parent? I'm sorry to hear that, Goat Dog. Thank you for sharing that. And the thing about it is these children, they have somebody that's in a position of power, which is really any adult. But you have somebody like a coach, a teacher. What they do is they start grooming them, and they start brainwashing them and manipulating their thought process. And that's why they target young people, or special needs, even people with special needs, because they're easier to victimize, less resistance. Remember, these people are complete cowards. 100%. Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate the positive comment there. He did break a kid's orbital socket. Yeah, there's nothing on paper. I couldn't find a affidavit, an arrest record, or anything to support that. Not that I think that it's a lie. You think that something in a situation like that, there would be charges, some kind of paper trail. All right, let me read this here. This is Veto on KK's confession, and I pulled this from Channel 13 WTHR and part of their trial coverage. Right. ISP Detective David Vito testified about his investigation into Kagan Klein, who communicated with Libby German on social media under a screen name Anthony Schatz in the weeks before the murders. Once investigators identified Klein as the person behind the account that had contacted German on the day of the murders, they obtained a search warrant for the laptops and phones and discovered the devices contained CSAM. Vito testified that significant resources were devoted to investigating whether Klein and his father, Jerry, were connected to the murders before Richard Allen was arrested, even taking Klein to a cemetery near the crime scene in August 2022, where Klein claimed to have gone with his dad on the day the girls were killed. Vito said Klein had told police his father went into the woods for a few hours and came back with blood on him, and that his dad threw a cell phone and knife in the river before they left the area. The detective told the court that investigators later searched the water near the crime scene, but they found no cell phone belonging to Klein or knife matching the one he described. Vito said after Allen's arrest, months later on October 2022, investigators discovered Allen had at some point lived in the same Miami County neighborhood as the Klein family, but they never found proof the family spent time together. On cross-examination, Vito told prosecutors that police were able to disprove that Keegan Klein and his dad had been in Delphi on the day of the murders, testifying that investigators found cell phone evidence showing both were at home in Peru. It cannot be that easy to get away with murder, you guys. Vito told the court that investigators were not able to place Klein or his father at the crime scene or in Delphi on the day of the murders. Well, then. Jeez. Miranda, have to head out. Okra night. Take care, Sleuth. Have a good one, Miranda. Good to see you. Two people logging in out on phones. KK's house, not KKTK. Then who was with KK, or was KK doing an Anthony Shots and Emily Ann routine with the victim? Well, his excuse for the log in, log out was that he was trying to message more girls. Like, the only way that would make any sense is if you were doing it two handed and you were able to text with your left hand and text with your right hand simultaneously. There's something more to it. And they're looking for that phone. They still haven't found that phone. They haven't found Richard Allen's phone, and they haven't found that phone. Let's see what it said in the recent documents. So this was officially filed, I believe, by Richard Allen's defense team. Maybe even part of some type of Frank's. Oh, no, this was to the third-party suspects. Keegan Klein is the son of Jerry Anthony Klein. He was 22 years old in February. 2017, and he and Jerry Anthony Klein resided in Peru, Indiana, February 2017. Detective David Veto testified that Kagan Klein was communicating with Liberty German using a fake Snapchat account under the name Anthony Schatz in the days leading up to and on February 13th, 2017. The content of these messages is unknown. Why? Why is it unknown? He further testified that Kagan Klein admitted to driving to Delphi, Indiana with his father, Jerry Anthony Klein, on February 13th, 2017, and that Keegan Klein waited in the vehicle while Jerry Anthony Klein went to the woods in the area where Abby and Libby German's bodies were ultimately found. So I find that very interesting. So Vito testified that the Anthony Schatz account was communicating with Libby, but they don't have all of that. They don't have all of those messages. The content of these messages is unknown. I mean, we don't know what the hell was stated there then, right? Detective David Vito testified that Kagan Klein stated that when Jerry Anthony Klein returned to the vehicle, he had blood on him. Roland Purdy further testified that Kagan Klein admitted that they discarded a knife in a river when they were driving home. All of this evidence creates an inference that Kagan Klein and Jerry Anthony Klein murdered Abigail Williams and Liberty German. So remember, they waited till the very last minute to start kind of touching on the Keegan Klein stuff. Because they know damn well that the jury might speculate that they are connected. If they can't prove that they're not, you know what I mean? What's up, Franny? I use two computers at once for some of the research I do. I don't log in and out, but I search on both. KK with two phones may not be unusual. I mean, it depends. He's talking about doing it while he's catfishing. So I'm not sure how he's covering more ground that way. Unless that's what he's doing, right? We know that somebody was harassing Libby. So maybe what he's doing is he's logging into the Anthony Schatz account. And then on a complete separate device, he's kind of like, hey, you should talk to my friend Kagan. And then on the second device, he starts reaching out to them like, hey, my friend said we might be a good match. Something like that. Kind of like what he was doing with the Emily Ann account. Acting like a young girl and then say, hey, you should talk to my dad. But really it was Keegan Klein. Yeah, good luck on that, Goat Dog. Let me know how it goes. Good luck, man. All right. We'll finish up here with Keegan's alibi. Let's take a look at that. This is pulled from some of his transcripts. He has 3 of them that are floating around. So he says here, I was at my house. They have my GPS locations and everything. And the investigators say, and you were in Peru, Indiana? He says, yeah. Here's another snip. And that was not you? No, 100% no. They have my GPS the whole day. I think this is when he was talking to Barb McDonald. They have my GPS the whole day. And how do they have your GPS for the whole day from your phone? He says, I gave it to him. And then again asked, well, from where? He says, well, from my phone. Yeah, okay. They can. I don't know how they do it, but yeah. And he's shown me. He's shown me that day all my GPS locations. You know what I mean? Here's a full page. The investigators, I mean, this is a fresh in your mind. You just got back from Vegas. You've been nonstop searching this stuff. You have been talking about it with other girls that knew Libby. You have been searching it before you went to Vegas. And then you tell investigators, I was with my dad all day. We went to grandma and grandpa's at noon. See, noon, that's the exact same time I suspect Richard Allen would have left his mother and his sister in Peru. They would get back to Delphi by 1 o'clock and to the trails by 1:26. Kagan's answered, no, I told them I didn't know what. I mean, I don't ever leave. So, like, yeah, I'm probably out at his house, really. But I mean, they say, I'm telling you again. He says, I don't remember everything I did. They say, well, I'm refreshing your memory. Kagan says, like I told them that I would go and see my grandma and grandpa, like a lot. Investigators say, no, for fact, audio video recorded of your interview. You told them a few days after this happened, you know you were with your dad all day. And you know you went to your grandparents. Your interview, you either said 12 to 2 or 12 to 3. So think about that timeline from 12 to 3. That's really like around the time they would have been involved, or he would have been involved. A little after 3, right? How convenient is that? And then he says, and then we came back home. 12 to 3, and then came back home. That's what you said. That's not a I don't remember. That's what you said, right? No, because he was like, hey, you really need to think about this. So that was a quote, if it sounded strange. Okay, it says here, like, do you see how I'm on somebody's country club, whatever you said, country club road on someone's Wi Fi? I've never been to anyone's house on Country Club Road ever. I don't even know where that's at out there. I just know that those roads meet or it's something country. And that's a lie because his cousin lives right there with Pawpaw Pike. I literally have no clue. Like, I don't know anyone, which is another lie. I don't know anything about that whole case. Like, yeah, it looks terrible, but I promise you, like, I know you guys are looking for that person and it's not me. I know absolutely nothing. And I get the whole is like weird too, but I swear I don't know anything. All very strange. Yeah, good luck, Goat Dog. But some things are out of control. Monsters will be monsters. Yeah, 100%. They need to be put down. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. If there's anything you wanted to add to it, let's get to it. Let's hear it. Otherwise, we're done. Just keep a lookout. I have a few videos that are going to be dropping, at least one in the next like 2 hours. Yeah, I don't use that word with investigators anymore, Anna. I don't use that word. Surely, surely they did this or surely they did that. Because during interviews, even Holman was like, wow, social media was doing this. And Richard Allen's defense team was like, man, social media did that. I wish we had an answer for that. So, we're part of this now, guys, whether they like it or not. Social media is here. We're a force and we will be heard. And I think it's good for the core investigator and law enforcement to have competition. To know like, hey, if you don't do your job and you allow some bum ass web sleuths to step in and find these answers before you do, how embarrassing. All right, guys. So I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors for the day. Julia Burns, thank you so much for your constant support. You're also a member. Same with you, Ziggy. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's live stream. All of you mods, keeping the chat chill. I'm sure there's a lot going on in the chat, that a lot that I don't even notice. So I really appreciate your guys' hard work. I'll find a way to do something special for you guys in the future. And then all of my donors, you guys are incredible. Thank you for making this all make sense. We're 100% crowd-funded. So those of you who donate to the Cash App, the Venmo, and the Zelle, um, especially during hard times like this, I mean, it means a lot to me, guys. I blush every time. I appreciate you. So, replay crew, you know what to do. Drop a comment and we'll get back to you. Everybody else who was able to catch the live stream, it was good to see you. Shout out to you. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.